Hi everyone, welcome back to Valley View Flower Farm. I thought it's about time I gave you an update on what's going on with the cut flowers. So if you've been watching for a while, I garden and I have a very small, it's a micro flower farm here in Central West New South Wales, equivalent of an 8A, 8B gardening zone. So we do get some good, decent frosts in the winter down to -6, but we don't get too hot in the summer. Probably around the 35, 36 degree mark is probably a hot day for us. So recently I've added U-picks to my offerings, and I've just had my first one as a bit of a trial to see how it goes and how I feel about it, and it was great. So what I thought I'd do today is just take you for the tour of the flower farm and talk about what I did with the U-pick. So for those who are new to my channel, we live on a working cattle farm now. We sold all our sheep just recently, so now we just have the cattle, and it's about 300 acres that we have here. And as part of that, we have our property, so our house and our garden, which people who come for a U-pick or a tour can walk around and view the garden. And I also have a micro flower farm. So the micro flower farm is about 1/4 of an acre, and the garden is about 1 1/4 acres. So 1 1/2 acres in total of garden that we have here. So I do the cut flower garden as a bit of a side hustle. I do work full time, and I'm actually a town planner. So making sure that we complied with council regulations here in New South Wales is a very important part of establishing the U-pick. So this is my parking area, so people park here and then they won't walk across the grid because that would be terrible for my insurance, but they go through this gate here and then out to the U-pick field, which is a separate section to my main garden. So this is the entrance here. And if you've watched any previous videos, this used to be actually an area where we used to have our poddy lambs, so our motherless lambs that we used to bottle feed, we used to raise in here. So I transformed this area because it was a bit of an eyesore, and you know, it is a working farm, so there's going to be areas of the farm that aren't visually that stimulating, but you know, I need to respect the fact that this is still our home and we still run a farm, but I just want to make sections of it appealing. And whilst we do have a massive big power pole in this area, I have planted a garden around the power pole, and this is a perennial garden, and everything that's in here is suitable for picking. So people can also pick out of this little landscape section. So this is only relatively new. I think this is at first spring. I put it in probably midsummer last year. So we've got billy buttons and we've got a few natives in here. There are some dahlias, the odd peony, all coming up in this section. Just starting to get a little bit of a colour now. Because we're so cool, we don't get our last frost until the 1st of November. So things are often a little bit later to establish here than they are in other areas. But I just love the billy buttons in the garden. I just think they just make such a beautiful impact. So from this area we have some raised beds, and these are my garlic, predominantly my garlic beds. So 3 beds here of garlic, and what I do with those, I usually braid those. They should be ready in about a month, and I'll braid the garlic and I sell them at the farmers markets. One of the improvements that we did make this year was to install some irrigation into the field. So water is a massive issue here. My actual ornamental garden, I don't water once the plants are established, but in the flower field, obviously I'm going to need to water, and I have some micro sprinklers here that are on a timer for the garlic, which has made a massive improvement to the quality of the garlic that we've grown this year. On the other side, we have another 4 raised beds, and this is just a mixture of things. I do like growing onions, so we grow our own onions each year. So 2 beds of onion. This bed has potato onions, which is more like a perennial onion or a clumping onion. This bed here, this is full of wheat. So I like to make dried flower wreaths. So I have a full bed of wheat there. And then this bed was onion, but the seedlings didn't go as well as I'd like. So I shifted them out, and now it's just a mixed bed, a mixed planting of summer annuals in there. You can't quite see much yet, but there's sunflowers and zinnias and gomphrena and all sorts of things in this bed. So like with any garden, there's always a little bit of work to be done. It's never in a state of perfection, and I have to keep reminding myself that this is a picking garden, this is a production garden. This doesn't have to be perfect all the time. So I need to lower my tolerance for weeds, because I do hate weeds, but I can't spend my whole time in here weeding. So this is the patch, like I said, 1/4 of an acre, and down below is another section there that I hope to plant with peonies. I do have, I've put in a request to order 300 peonies from Gateforth Peony Farm, so they'll be going in that section down there, and I will be having some help with that. I'm talking to a landscaper to come and a local landscaper to come and help me, and I'll provide some more information on that later. So here we are. We're sort of mid-October or mid to late October, and everything's just started to come now. We've had a really late spring, but I'll take you around and I'll show you where we're at. So probably the main change that you'll see if you've watched before is we have fixed up this area here. So my husband made a cotton steel square there, and eventually we'll have a gazebo type structure over the top. We have some rusty old corrugate iron to make a little hip roofed area that'll provide some shade during summer. So that's been a really nice improvement, and I went to a garage sale yesterday and I got these two settings. I love a good garage sale. So either side of the front entrance we have raised beds here, and this first bed is belly buttons. So this is my 3rd year flower farming, and I've just really wanted to trial. Everyone says don't grow everything. I say grow everything, because I don't know what I like, and I don't know what works in my climate, and I don't, especially with the lack of water. So I will trial all the things, and then when I decide I like something and it works well for my climate and my customers like it, then I'll decide to put a full bed in. So this is a perfect example of that. These are my billy buttons, and if you don't grow billy buttons, you should, because they're really easy to grow from seed. So these are my autumn sown billy buttons, and then the bigger plants here and the bigger plants in the landscape section we just recently walked through, they're from last year. So I find I get 2 productive years out of the belly buttons, and then they really get, they start to die off a little bit in this garden. And I take them out. But if they're in the landscape, I think you could just cut them back hard and leave them in. Of course, there's always failures, and one of them for me this year has been stock. Well, there's been a couple of failures, but stock was a big one. I do have some stock here. It's only just started flowering now, but it's taking up way too much space, and a lot of it has died out, and I don't think I'll bother growing that again. I've given it a go. I grew it once really, really well, and that was in my 1st year, and then ever since then it's been a total failure. Flanking either side of the gateway are some roses. I know garden roses don't last long in a vase, but most of these are hybrid teas, and I like having them. I like the fact that people can pick from them, and people do like picking them. They always ask if they can pick the roses and when the roses will be ready. It's like most things, you know, even stuff that doesn't last very long, that's fleeting, you know, it just brings so much joy. So this whole section along here, hybrid teas, and the same on the other side, and interplanted I do have hellebores and liliums. This bed is mostly carnations. So the big tall single flowering carnations. I do need to get some mesh on this bed, but I do interplant a lot, and you'll notice that's a very big theme in my garden. And interplanted in this, I do have some Skylar Veronica, so some just the blue, the pinks, and the whites. And then down in this section here, and I can't wait to show you when these flower, these are mini hollyhocks. I'm not sure if they're a Greek hollyhock. I'll put a picture up of what they look like. If they flower like the picture shows, and I got the seeds from Seedscape Seeds, I'll be very, very happy because they look amazing. Obviously, I need to test them to see how they go in a vase, but they're absolutely beautiful. Following along on this top section, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 beds either side flanking the gate. This bed is waiting for me to dig it back over and put something else in there. I do have some lavandera and other things in the greenhouse that need to go in. This is another testing area. So these are all perennials. There's a lot of annuals that have just come up in here, like granny's bonnets and larkspur, but this is predominantly a perennial section. This is all planted last year. So should flower this year. Perennials grown from seed that are supposedly cut flower varieties. Again, I get my seeds from Seedscape Seeds, and I'm just testing them to see how they go. If they don't work out for me, they just end up in the landscape, so no great loss. They do take up a bit of space in the flower farm, but you know, for me, this is all part and parcel of working out what works for me. This bed here are my Champion series of Campanula. So this is just, these were bought as plugs, and the ones in the front here, sorry, where's my finger there? The ones in the front here are ones I've grown from seed, and I think they actually look a little bit better than the plugs, and the rest are plugs. So there's just a mix of blues and lilacs, I think. I just can't remember. But anyway, looking forward to them flowering. Really love Campanula. It's a great, great cut flower, and people just love it. Dutch iris, a lot of iris left on the plant this year. In the previous 2 years, I was mad about making sure I cut every single stem because I didn't want to waste a single flower, and I thought every flower that I let, you know, every bulb that I let bloom instead of cut, I thought it was a waste. But really I've I don't know, I've evolved in my thinking from that regard, because these are perennials. These will come back. If I don't cut them all, it's okay. I can let them flower. I can deadhead them. There's still new ones coming through. The U-pickers absolutely loved these. They're a great success. I do have some red ones coming up. They probably won't flower this year. They might flower next year. But yeah, they've been amazing. I love Dutch iris, although I'm going to have to dig all these out come winter and just improve the spacing. I do have some granny's bonnets here, which I will dig out. These are really nice. I think these are the pink petticoat. And I will dig them out and put them in the landscape. They've done really well. But yeah, I need all that space for the Dutch iris, because I don't think I could have a garden without Dutch iris. They were my wedding flower, so special spot in my heart for those. So the beds I just walked through on one side of the gate, and they run north-south, and then I have beds running east-west, and I quite like, my husband said he thinks they all should run north-south, but I like the different configuration of the beds, because some beds I can shield a bit better. We do get most of our winds from the west, which is over there where the gum trees are, and this way I can sort of provide shade and shield things that are a little bit more sensitive. So we've got how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 beds on this side, and another 6 beds on the other side running east-west. So at the end of each bed, I just have these old washing machine tubs, and that's where I put my invasive stuff or stuff that I want to dig out. So there's my apple mint, and I've got 2 empty ones down there, which I will put scented geranium in, which I've got coming. I do love scented geranium. That's what I'm going to put in all my other pots in this area as well, and then I can just dig them up and put them in the greenhouse because they don't really last over winter. So this is salmon ranunculus, looking spectacular. Need to come through and deadhead, and I need to also give it a liquid fertilizer. So they are looking absolutely beautiful, and so happy with the salmon ranunculus. Very, very thick stems, very strong. You'll notice some of the other ones that I've got from plugs weren't as vigorous, and I notice that each year some varieties just aren't as vigorous as others, and that's okay because I'm keeping all the corms. So, you know, we'll see how they go next year. So I have some Chinese forget-me-nots, just a small patch. I don't really have much success in growing Chinese forget-me-nots. They're always really short. This is a bed. This is an example of one that wasn't really successful. Really nice flowers though on the white ranunculus. Very, very long stems. I think these have the longest stems out of all the ranunculus I've grown so far, the white ones. But yeah, not as vigorous. This bed will be my delphinium bed, so eventually the only thing that will be planted in here is delphinium. I do have a biennial there, which once it's finished I will remove and then just extend this bed of delphiniums. Just some first year plants here, and then these are second year plants. So I find I get a good 3 years from delphiniums, and then after that they tend to die off a bit. So a mixture of blues and purples and whites, mainly in this section. Very, very big, vigorous plants. I do have an issue with fascination, where you get deformed stems, and I just need to come in and cut them off. I did cut them off last year, but as you can see here, this is quite deformed, so I need to take that right down to the bottom. Another thing with delphiniums, if you are cutting the spikes of flowers, cut them off all the way down to the ground. They have a hollow stem, and then water gets in and they will rot. This is a absolute winner as far as I'm concerned as a perennial cut flower. This is called Crown of Snow, and I grew this from seed. This is its 3rd year, and this just keeps getting better and better and better. And it is a perennial campanula, and it does have long enough stems now. The first year it didn't have long enough stems, and you can cut it just when the first flowers open. You do get some rain damage, as you do with any white flower, and then they just continue to open up down the stem. Really, really nice. This here is my 3rd year of delphiniums, and as you can see, they're not as vigorous, and I have had a few die out. Now you can take root cuttings very easily of delphinium, and that's probably the easiest way to grow them, because I don't know about you, but I struggle growing them by seed. Okay, so this is a good example, this bed of interplanting, and I'm glad to show it to you now because sometimes it's a success and sometimes it's not. So this bed is my snapdragon bed, and I've got to say my snaps aren't fabulous. They've been better in previous years, and that's probably from me not watering enough. We have had a pretty dry winter and spring, but I have interplanted them with corn cockle, and as you can see, it's worked really, really well. They're both cohabitating here quite happily. They've got similar forms, so that's why I thought I'd give them a go. Obviously, as you can see, bed space is a bit of a premium, so wherever I can intercrop, I will try and do so. But I don't know what you think, but I think it's been a success. Another example of intercropping, not sure if this is successful or not, but these are my liliums, and obviously they're perennialized here. Most of them are Asiatic or Asiatic crosses, and And the larkspur, I just let it come up. And we also have honesty in this bed and sweet William. I think once you grow sweet William, you'll always have sweet William, which is not a bad thing. It has been flowering pretty much nearly all year round, which is amazing. So yeah, another example of intercropping. And I don't think my liliums are too upset. I mean, it's pretty tight in here, but yet they seem okay. So we'll see how that goes. And these are just your run-of-the-mill Asiatic, no, LA hybrids these are. And it's like Nashville, which is a yellow one, and I've got a red one. You know, I've got a few different types. They're not anything spectacular, but they're great to have in that gap, just in, you know, that's early summer gap. So this is just me, because I'm always a gardener. I can never escape from that part. So I have a climbing rose here, and I do have a clematis in here that's supposed to be good for cutting. So in time, hopefully I'll be able to cut from that. Finally got to cutting back my chrysanthemum beds. I do have a heap of cuttings to put in this year. So that's all been tidied up, and we're going to trial some steel mesh on these beds this year. So they just, even though I cut them back twice during the season, the stems were just so massive and heavy. So I think the steel mesh will work better this time. So the ute in the background there, we're just putting in some posts for my dahlias. I've got some existing dahlias in the ground, and I've got a heap to plant. This whole bed here will be dahlias. So this bed is only partially filled out. There's a nice big foxglove. I'm not sure which one that is. It's one I've grown from seed, but it's very pretty. So in here I have some perennials that are only just starting to come up, and some straw flower. I've got more straw flower to go in to fill this section of bed. I've got quite a lot of flowers this year that are suitable for drying. So I hope to do a lot of dried flower wreath workshops this year. So I'll keep you posted on that one. Of course, we've got Oric there. It just comes up everywhere. I don't mind it. I just let it come up if it's not in the way of anything else. People seem to like that. There's an empty bed. That's for summer. Annuals will go in there. My little kiddie's chair that I sometimes like to sit on when I plant seedlings out. Tiny little patch of snapdragons. This bed here, and I'll show you from the other side, is basically my filler bed. So like I said, this is my filler bed, and I've got some Chinese statice, or do they call it? I don't know how to pronounce it. But anyway, Chinese statice, the airy perennial statice. I got those plugs from Grow Australia, and you don't need too many plants of those, and they are fantastic in bouquets and for drying. I think they're China white and China blue. Down here, there's some blue cornflowers here, some bits and pieces, some I can't even say it, blue perum. Anyway, some more Oric there, some cress, some Orlea, and I actually had, and I know this is weedy in some areas, but I had some pennycress come up in some plugs that I ordered, and I absolutely love it. So I'm going to keep some seed, and I'm going to plant more of this, because it's not only the form that I love, but the colour, such a great filler. So I'm going to try saving some of that seed and definitely growing more of that. So we have a few other perennials here that I hope to establish more of. We've got some sea holly and Erigeum in this section. The sea holly is doing really, really well. And if I were you and you were thinking of growing it, then I would contain it. I think one of the best things about growing in these raised beds is this little barrier here. My husband did it like that to stop the boards from buckling, but it's a barrier for plants like sea holly, which you want to grow, but you don't want to take over. So we're at the bottom of the flower farm now, and I'll just pan. So now we're looking north, and we have the same number of beds on the other side, and we have this section here. And if you've watched any previous videos, I had big plans for this section. I was going to grow a heap of sweet peas, and I did raise probably about 100 sweet pea seedlings from seed, and I had an epic failure. They just, I don't know what happened, and I don't know whether this soil, because I've had a lot of chip in this area, is low in nitrogen. I did fertilise them, but they just seem to sort of die off. But before we put in this corten steel levelled area, this area here was also very wet, so they could have rotted before they got established. I do have more sweet peas in the greenhouse that I have to plant this weekend. And I also grew some perennial sweet peas, which, although they don't have a scent, grow exactly the same way a sweet pea does. So I'm going to plant them on here as well. And then, you know, I'm going to grow pumpkins on here for summer. So not everything is, unfortunately, a success. So along the back section of the flower farm, we have pretty much the same again. We have roses on either side of this gate. Like I said, this section down here is going to be peonies in autumn, but we'll talk about that in another video. And then more roses and liliums, and then I'll have the dahlias. This is the ranunculus bed. So these are the ranunculus corms that I saved from last season, and most of these I grew from plugs. And as you can see, they come back really well. So I dug them all up last year and saved them and replanted them. I need to go through and deadhead. Everything really needs a good water. I'm hand watering still at the moment, because even though we had irrigation put in, it was put in after these beds were already planted out. So a little bit more hand watering. This section, there's a few weeds in here, but this is my morpho delphinium that I grew last year. And I just cut it down hard, fertilised it, remulched it, and it actually has come back really well. I liked the morpho delphinium. I got them from plugs. The stems were a little short last year, and I'm hoping this year they'll be a bit taller. I don't think I can probably grow it for a third year, but I'm just going to see. Even if I dig up some of the plants, I probably don't need, you know, half a bed full. This little patch in here, these are all my liatris, so they're all in one spot now. You'll see the delphinium will reseed, so there's some there that's just come up. And this section all along here are my peonies, and I'll show you those a little bit later. Just panning over this way, I've got the dahlias are coming up quite well. We still have a risk of frost, but you know, they're ones I left in the ground, so we'll see how they go. The flower farm is looking really nice at the moment. This bed is a tiny little section of bunnytail grass, which I use dried. Really enjoyed growing that. It's such a lovely addition. So only a small patch, but you don't need many of them. You get quite a lot of heads, bunnytail heads on the grass, so you don't need too many plants. Really easy to grow from seed. This section is my Renunculus plugs that are new to me this year. So I got 4 trays in autumn, and these are the results of that. So you'll see there is lots of sunflowers coming up, which I've just left them come up. I had sunflowers in this bed last year. So these maroon ones haven't been great. They are only now starting to get the longer stems. But we'll see how they go next year. They're like a pickety finish on the petals. I really like them. And this is my pastel mix. Some of these plants, these were the weaker seedlings from the tray, and these were the stronger ones, but I think you'll find that in the end they'll all come back better next year. And there is a mix of colours, but mostly they're pinks. Need a good deadhead in this section. So to quickly talk about the U-pick, so what I do with the U-pick is mainly they were picking the Dutch iris, the Renunculus, granny's bonnets, anemones, which are just about done. And I was really worried, and Billy Buttons, and I was really worried that that wouldn't be enough selection for them, but they absolutely had a wow of a time. And I couldn't even see, I was so worried about not having enough flowers, but I couldn't see where they had even picked. So that to me was a great success. So I charged $40 for a small vase, which some people may think is very expensive compared to what other people charge. But I found that part of that payment was you got to walk around my private garden, and you also, I took you on a tour, showed you how to cut the flowers for the best vase life, walked you through the flower farm, and then they had 2 hours to do all of that in. Well, they could have stayed longer, and it was a sunset U-pick, and it just, yeah, I only had a small group. There was about 13 people here. It's not a big area, so I didn't want to people to feel too crowded. And I also had tables and things here, and I also had a lot of pickings from my garden, which they really liked to draw from. So I had some Peronia, and I had some natives, I had some sweet peas, I had a few other bits and pieces, just extra elements for them to put in their bouquets, some GMs. Yeah, so everyone said they enjoyed themselves. I got some beautiful photos. I enjoyed it. I'm not a very outgoing person, so I didn't know how I would go, but I really enjoyed it. So we're definitely doing some more of those. This is pretty much half a bed of Matricaria or feverfew. It's just coming up into head now. A few more chrysanthemums in this bed here. This is another perennial. This is Solidago. So this bed is nice and thick and full, so I'm looking forward to that. I do love Solidago. It's it flowers at the same time the liliums flower, so it's a great addition. A few weeds in here. This is my last year overwintered Rebecca, so there are some Rebecca's coming up, and I just thought I'd see how they go being overwintered. I did plant some more, I'll show you those in a minute. Again, these are liliums, these are the red ones, and they're interplanted again, same sort of thing, although the sweet williams have gone ballistic in this bed, so I probably need to pull most of them out next year, because there are liliums in here as well. These liliums are a bit shorter, so it'd be interesting to see how it goes with all the extra competition. There's another clematis there. I do have Dutch iris everywhere. I need to dig them up and put them in the landscape. This is a bigger section than I usually grow of the Perennials scabiosa. And I grew all these from seed. I don't know why I have cornflowers. I think they just came back up, and none of them are blue, so I probably won't like any of them. I probably should pull them out, but I'm just going to let them go for the moment. And underneath them are some Veronica. I think it's the Speedwell Veronica, that's the pink there. And this is my bejeweled loosestrife. which I again grew from seed. I love it. I don't know what, none of the you pickers picked any, but I think it's fantastic. I don't know how it would go in your garden, whether it would be a complete bully. This is its third year, so it's taken a long time to get nice long stems and for it to really bush out. But I did notice it did reseed itself a little bit, so I pulled those bits out. This is my white mugwort, not the weedy one. This is another perennial, and it's a fantastic filler. It has like little white balls in towards the end of summer. I really like that. I have a different variety in the perennial section I'll show you. This is a beautiful Dutch iris. It's a real sky blue colour. I love this one, and it flowers later. And I think that's the other thing I like about Dutch iris. The different colours flower at different times, so you've always got them, even though they do come on fairly quickly. It's a bit of a spread through spring. So the crown of snow, the perennial campanula, this is the purple variety. This is the clustered bellflower, I think. It's a purple one, so this is second or third year now. You can see lots of flowers coming up here. Great cut flower, really pretty. And again, it just opens up down the stalk and lasts really well, like all campanulas do in the vase. Perennial campanulas are, I don't know, they're the duck's guts as far as I'm concerned. I do love them, and I've got quite a few, always trialling them, and in a hope to have a full bed of perennial campanula here. I've got some things in here. This is another trial section for perennials. And the reason I grow them in here, I know they take up precious space as opposed to the landscape, is they'll get watered in here, whereas in the landscape I'm not great with watering. I tend to water where I have to, so that's the difference. So baby's breath, I do have the odd peony coming up that I need to remove and put elsewhere. What else have we got here? We've got a few different phloxes, so some perennial phlox. They've been okay. Interesting to see how they go. This is their third year. The stems weren't really long the first 2 years, so bit of snapdragon coming up there. This is a different mugwort. Similar sort of, I suppose, growth habit to the white, but it has a different flower. I'll put a picture up of that one. Some bellflower, I've tried to grow that from seed, ended up buying a plant, so I'm going to see how that goes and if that goes well. That's the blue bellflower. The rest in here are all different types of campanulas. This is another campanula here. This is second or third year, lots of buds on this one. It doesn't look impressive, but when it flowers, they're absolutely beautiful, and the colour, especially there's a few white ones and whites with the edge of blue, and they are really stunning. So in this section here, I've been looking for these, trying to buy these for ages. This is apricot fudge. It's a lilium, it's a double lilium. A fellow in Oberon gave me a plant, and I've got it in the perennial section, and I just fell in love with it, and I wanted more. So I did buy these at retail price, but I don't care. They are absolutely beautiful. I can't wait to show you them in flower. And yeah, I've got some interplanting there with a few annuals. Another lilium I'm trialling, again paid retail, small quantity, and that is the Sarah Bernhardt double lilium, so a pollenless one. Big pink double flowers. Probably won't do much for me this year. Got them really late because I waited till they were on sale. And you know, when you do that, you risk losing a few. But I hope to look after them really well and get better flowers next year. I do tend to buy my retail liliums if I want the special double ones when they're on sale. So this is again another section of perennials, perennial status. I don't know what I did this year. I didn't get my normal status in on time, and I ended up putting it in the landscape. But this is the perennial status. I planted that last year. This is the first year it's going to flower, so looking forward to seeing that. If I don't like it, again, I'll just put it in the landscape. It's another Veronica. This is a ping pong scabiosa. This section here is all my Rudbeckia that I grew from seed, although I've got some other stuff coming up with it and I'm not sure what it is. So I need to have a look at that. This is the Irish bells. I've got these as plugs. They're looking really good. So this is now we're back at the main entrance to the flower farm, and this is the western side of the garden. And I hope you don't find it too boring and I just rattle off names of things. And if you want more information, I'm happy to, I'm pretending to be an expert. I'm happy just to give you my experience of things. So yeah, if you need more information, please let me know. So this bed is anemones, which all need to come out now. They're pretty much done, to be honest. They're looking really ratty and I need the space for something else. This is a Shasta daisy, which really needs to be dug out and put in the landscape. And I want this full bed to be planted with summer annuals. We've had some water troubles. The pump on our bore stopped working, so it took us a few days to work that out. So I did lose some lupins. This is a bed of lupins. And another, is it a malvia? It's in the hollyhock family. I'll put a picture up. It's a perennial. Now I'm just trialing these because I don't generally have success with hollyhocks. I do love hollyhocks. This is supposed to be a better one for picking, but I have issues with rust on hollyhocks. I also have a massive issue with harlequin beetles, and they do love anything in the mallow family, you know, including hollyhocks. So we'll just see how we go. Some more Sarah Bernhardt liliums there. They don't look as great because we've had I'll show you closer, a bit of the watering issue. So using the drip and getting it right is something that I'm constantly learning about. So roses, the sun's come out now, so a bit hard to see. This is my peonies. These are 3rd year flowering peonies, and only now am I starting to see buds on some of these plants. I did notice the other day, and I love the Peony Appreciation Facebook group because people are posting such beautiful photos and talking about peonies, and especially in our climate, it's, you know, it's sort of learning as you go. But I have noticed someone else put a post up about deficiencies, and I have noticed that some of my plants definitely have an iron deficiency, so I need to get onto that. So when I get my peonies for the back section, when I get them planted in here, a lot of these beds I will dig up and use these as part of the flower farm and shift all my peonies down the bottom. But yeah, you can definitely see there is some deficiency going on in there. Probably a bit easier to see from this side. So second bed, these peonies are looking much better. Now these peonies in the front are 1st years, and I know I'm not supposed to let them flower, but I don't always like doing what I'm told. So I'm just going to see what they look like and pick them off with short stems. These are Gateforth Farm in Tassie. They're peonies, and then I've got some 3rd year peonies that still look really small. And I have checked, they're not planted too deeply. I just don't think they've got the vigour in them, because when I bought them, the section of root, peony root, was really, really small. So I'm just going to give them time, water, lime and food. Okay, so this must be my absolute favourite bed in all of the flower farm. I probably say that about every flower. I do love them all. But peonies, oh my God, like they are just amazing. And And to grow them in Australia, you feel so blessed to live in an area that's cold enough to actually have peonies. So these are second year coral charm peonies from Gateforth Peony Farm in Tassie. And oh my goodness, they are just ginormous. And I have been picking these. I have been picking them. I put them in a brown paper bag. I can show you what I do. And I stick them in the fridge because I've got a bride looking for flowers at the end of the month. So she can have all my coral peonies. And this one is soft and ready to pick. And they've just been magnificent. I think some of them, when they've got a head like this, I don't know if you can see that, I'll probably cut that off. It's a little bit deformed. And I have been taking the side buds off as well. And I'll probably take a few flowers off this one and just let a few open to see what they're like. They're delicious. And someone said you could make peony petal jam. I don't know. I saw that somewhere. Could you imagine pink jam? Or I think they call it jelly. But yeah. This back bed here is just my landscaping bed, and I have to tell you, it's not looking great. I had big hopes for this section with all the proteas. I think a lot of them have died off, probably through lack of care on my part, but it's all going to be dahlias now. I do need to put some landscaping in here as a windbreak, so I do have other shrubs to go in, but for the moment I'm going to plant that with dahlias. So this bed here is pretty much first year flowering or second year flowering. Peonies, a few liliums. So I've taken most of the flower buds off these plants. So this is the western side, probably the worst soil. We drop off, we're on a ridge, and over that end of the ridge there, it sort of drops off and is quite rocky. So the soil in here is not great. And there's an apple box tree there, which sucks quite a bit of moisture out of this garden section here. But we persevere because I want to grow things in the landscape, because there's not enough bed space to devote to everything that I would like to grow. So the billy buttons still do okay, even with a lack of water. They don't usually get watered, but they still grow quite well here. This section here, there's not a lot going on, but I do want to show you an Australian native that I've planted that I use. The first time I've used it this year, and I think it's been in the ground for 3 years. And I'll put the name up because I'm sure to mispronounce it. And it's been absolutely stunning. These are the flowers here. And it's got a soft grey foliage. You know, it's grey underneath, green on top. And then here it is here in full flower. These are the rice flower. This is the snaky bit of my flower farm. And not the most, beautiful part. This one's flowering now, and I wouldn't pick this now, although you could probably pick it. But, oh, there's a cat. Hey, Penelope. Just say hello. Yeah, so that's a great cut flower. So it's been really dry in here. I did water the other day, but I haven't watered since because of our pump. But I have got quite a few campanulas There's some campanulas in there. I've got some echinaceas. I've got some more echinacea to go in. I've just got that stuff that, you know, you don't pick from all the time, but you might like to add. I've got a few peonies in here and they're doing it hard, like I'm treating them pretty poorly, but they seem to be coping. This one here, it's probably a bit hard to see with this shade. This one here, I had troubles with the buds last year, and it's called Class Act. But it looks really healthy, and I think it got a late frost on the buds, and they didn't open properly. But yeah, it gets no additional water and no additional love whatsoever. I don't think I even fertilised it, so it goes to show they will handle a bit of neglect. So I've got some sanguisorbas, which are great cut flower. Got some more liliums. I have cut all my eucalyptus down to the ground, so that's why they look a bit sad. They're in the back section here. Heaven Sent, it's got a bud on it. This is the first time this peony has flowered. And this one I'm looking forward to. This one's called Dinner Plate. It's got a few buds. I might have to pick some of the buds off that one. Some tall buds on this one. Charlie's White. Looking forward to seeing that one. Just give you a quick pan. Don't mind the hose. That's the perennial section. Okay, so if anyone doesn't know what a harlequin beetle is, there it is there. We call them bum chums. I had another lady tell me she calls them push and pull. This is probably a nicer way of saying the same thing. Yeah, so they are sap-sucking insects, and they suck the sap out of plants. At the moment they're into my roses, but they'll go into my straw flowers and any other flowers, and they just deform everything. They're really a big pain in the backside. Okay, so the last bit of field that I want to show you is the landscaping field on the other side of the flower farm. This is our compost heap here, and actually it goes to show you how much compost we make from the flower farm. I got 3 or 4 bobcat buckets full of compost for my vegetable garden this winter, so it just works so well. It is a little bit weedy. I don't actually compost properly. I just cold compost, so just put it all in a big pile, and sometimes we turn it with the bobcat if we can. But it was so beautiful and so rich, so it was lovely to have. I know it's an eyesore, but we couldn't have the flower farm without it. So this is another landscape section. It doesn't look fantastic. We did have it full of proteas, which a lot of them died. The frost is a major issue here for those, and we're just putting in these. It looks a bit ordinary, but the dahlias got really big last year, so I'm just going to stake them like this, and they'll be all through the beds. And all through the back here, and all through this section and down. The same on the other side. Otherwise, it's just, this bed's a bit of a waste of space, so I just want to make sure that I utilise everything I can. And of course, there's more dahlias down this section. So there you have it, an update on the cut flower garden, I suppose you can call it, or the micro flower farm. Just to clarify, with the U-pick days that I've had, we do also provide a beautiful vase for the arrangements to go in. And if you're interested, I'll show you the signs that I've had made up by a local sign writer. We haven't had an opportunity yet to put a lot of the signs up, and we've had a lot on our plate. We've done a lot of work in the last 4 or 5 months. So I'll show you the signs, and then I'll have to show you once we put them up. Sorry for the background noise. My husband's doing some fencing work, so he's using a bobcat. Just wanted to go past this section here. This is just a little corner section of the flower farm. I only planted it to hide this corner post and stay here. But these irises are looking absolutely beautiful. I do have an issue with snails this year. And they're just coming out now. Really, really nice. Okay, so we're in my really messy shed. But these are the hand-painted signs that I got made. A local sign writer, so with the logo. And this is a timber sign, and this will go down at the front gate and we'll make a frame, a timber or metal frame, and that'll sit elevated. And these hand-painted signs, with the metal brackets down the bottom, I'm putting in a signpost just as you walk in the garden. That garden there with the telegraph pole, so they will sit on that there. He's done such a fantastic job, and it's all been sealed, so I should never have to touch the sign after it's put up. I'm really happy about what he's done. And while we're in here, I'll show you how I store my peonies. So this is just our drinks fridge, and I have it set so it won't freeze. And as the peonies soften, I just put them in these craft, they're quite heavy duty paper bags. And I'll put them over the top of the heads to protect the heads. And then I just leave them in here, and then when someone, I usually write the name of the peony, and then when someone wants a peony, they can recut the stems and rehydrate them. But this is for a bride who's having a wedding at the end of the month. Yeah, so I just thought I'd show you that as well. So that's it. A bit of an update on what's happening at the flower farm. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry for the background noise. Got any questions, drop them in below. I think I've covered everything. I think someone wanted an update on my sweet peas. Sorry, that's disappointing. Yeah, so everything's looking really nice. Let's hope for a bit of rain this year. I'm not sure what the forecast is. It keeps changing. So I'm not sure whether we're supposed to have a dry summer or wet summer. So either way, it'll be what it'll be. And I'm glad you've tuned in, and thank you for supporting me and supporting my videos. And I'll do another video hopefully sooner. It's yeah, it's hard to find time, but also got a microphone, so yeah, that was better. All right, thank you. Enjoy your weekend, and thanks for watching. Bye.